Shut up and sit down.
I want to talk about something that I alluded to in a previous video. The idea that the gym is an analog for real life. And I think this is something that's really, really important. The gym is a place that we come to train. It is a place that we come to develop a craft, develop a skill, improve ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally. It's a place that we come to get better. What are we getting better for? We're getting better for what happens outside the gym. I want to say it's Mark Devine from SEAL Fit where I first heard this idea that the gym is an analog for real life. And I love that expression. I absolutely love it. I say it to athletes that I work with all the time. I say it to firefighters I train. I say it to kids that I mentor. Whatever our training ground is, it's an analog for what we're going to do out in the real world. It's not the real world. Why does that matter? Why does it matter that we treat the gym, the training ground, the learning center, the classroom, the library, whatever it may be? Why is it important that we treat it as an analog and not as real life? I think it's simple. We need to remember that performance happens. Performance matters where we are out interacting with the world, where we are out interacting with the environment. The gym, the classroom, the library, the dojo, whatever you may have. Those are places where we break down skills and practice in a very deliberate way so that when we are out in the environment, we are ready to thrive. We are ready to perform at a moment's notice. As a firefighter, when I taught emergency procedures, we began teaching a very high-level set of skills in a classroom setting. And then we would move that setting to in full gear on a floor. And then we would move it to on full gear in a floor inside a building. And then we would turn the lights off. And then we would add something to black out the face piece. And only after a series of events did we bring people to the point where we were literally shutting off their SCBA air while they were in a burning building and they had to go through the process of reestablishing their air supply. Because the real world that we were training them for was the ability to handle an emergency in that life-threatening environment. But what's important here is that at all times in that training process, we kept in mind that being good at reestablishing your air on the floor, on the bay floor in the firehouse, in the classroom, on the training ground, even in the burn tower with a live fire environment, those were all analogs. None of those things were real life. None of those things were what a firefighter was going to actually experience if, God forbid, their SCBA suddenly quit working while they were inside a fire building for some various reason. It's the same thing with scuba divers. Scuba divers practice emergency procedures to reestablish their air underwater with the hope that they'll never have to do it in real life. My son, on his very first open water ocean dive, had an out-of-air emergency underwater. He hadn't turned his tank on all the way. Got down to depth, very quickly ran out of air. Realized he was out of air, signaled to his instructor that he was out of air. His instructor, not unreasonably, kind of gave him a look like, "Are you goofing around here?" Because he was a 13-year-old kid, and 13-year-old kids tend to goof around sometimes when it's not appropriate. The boy, rather than getting upset, freaking out, behaving inappropriately, simply spit his regulator out, took the instructor's buddy breathing regulator, purged it, put it in his mouth, began to breathe, and signaled, "We've got a surface." Outstanding. I'd love to claim credit for it. 100% just who that kid is as a person. That's what we want to see, though. It's not the ability to do it in the pool. It's not the ability to do it in the training ground. It's not the ability to deadlift in the gym that matters. It's what you can do out in the real world. So, what do we do with that? What's the takeaway here? The takeaway is this. In our training, whatever we are doing, wherever we are training, we want to remember that the training in the moment is preparing us to operate out in the real world. and that we come to the gym each and every session training not to be good in the gym, not to be good in the classroom, but to be good out in real life. Think about this. Pay attention to this idea. Remember that the gym, the classroom, the library, the training ground, these are places that we go to study, to refine our craft, to perfect our skill sets, to develop our technique, so that when the time comes and we must perform in the real world, we're ready. As always, thank you for taking the time to visit with me today, spend some time with me. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with a friend. Please encourage people to check out what we're doing. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Cheers.
Shut up and sit down.